Should you take things at their face value? I would answer no. Most of the time, there is a lot of hidden meanings or underlying themes or tones. There's a lot of things that could be misinterpreted if you take everything at face value. However, we're not going over a philosophical debate today. Well, we might. We'll get into that. My intention with this little discussion, my little rant for right now, is the following. If you have a situation in which you are creating content for a game, and the creator of the game directly states their intentions when making content for their game, should you take it at face value? I would argue, yes, you should take the intention of the creator of the content that you are consuming and making additional content for. You should take whatever they say, not at face value, but you should take it as a pin, as a note in your mind when coming up with new content. You should keep that in mind as to, is this what the creator intended? I'll give you an example. Recently, in one of my past rants, I explained how I thought the Weapon Master, the Sharpshooter, and the Fury in Fabula Ultima were kind of boring and that they didn't really offer a lot, and I still stand by that. And I'm currently working on revising them and making them a bit more dynamic and less of a what do you call it, like a last option, like the last picked in football type deal, where you've already gotten your build set up and you look at your build and you're like, well, everything's pretty much perfect, and like I could go with like this class or I can go with this other class, and like they would offer me something, but it's like not necessary. And so like maybe I'll just take Weapon Master or Sharpshooter because they have generic benefits that are good. So like I'll take Blade Storm or Barrage, and then I'll take the Weapon Mastery, so this way I get better accuracy on my particular weapons. And they kind of felt like one of those choices that you'd pick near the end, just because your build's already complete and you just needed something else there, because why not? It's not harming you. It's making you slightly better, but it's nothing that you couldn't have achieved with something else. But I had asked this question in the server, in the Fabula Ultima server, and the creator, Emma, stated that when they were creating atlases in particular, because I had pointed out that atlas content was significantly more fleshed out in terms of thematics and design and mechanics than the base book, and that how atlases had classes that were more defined and less generic than the 3 classes that I mentioned. They said that, yes, this is true, that was by design, because when it came to making atlases later on, and in particular atlas classes and atlas additional content, it was more about giving players what they wanted, like what they demanded. It was more about having some kind of quirky mechanic or theme based around classes that they had in mind, or they just wanted to experiment, as stated by Emma. Yet when I presented this argument to a fellow brewer of mine, they stated, no, you shouldn't take that advice at all. You shouldn't take Emma's advice at all. Completely disregard it. Because the creator of any piece of media or artwork immediately, this is quoted, the creator of any artwork or piece of media immediately loses any context that they may have had for it the moment it becomes public. And while I don't disagree with this, and I'll give you an example in a second, I disagree with it on a fundamental level, because if the creator of the game is stating how they went about it, and they are successful, and they have possibly made money off of this, and it is very popular and now starting to get spread around, meanwhile yours is not, and you have not, I think that taking the precedent of the creator is more than the other person. An example I gave a while back when a similar discussion happened on a different topic, I can't remember, was, imagine that there is a art showing in which there is a blank canvas, like there's a blank canvas painting, there's no paint on it, it's not painted white, it's completely blank, except for one black dot in the middle, no bigger than the size of a paintbrush head. If people go and see this art, they're going to interpret it differently. They're going to interpret it as like a sign of societal depression, and how in a blank void of everything you feel alone, or how the artist felt struggling and separated from all of his loved ones, and that's why he depicted himself as this black dot and this empty void, and the rest of it is meant to symbolize his separation from not only those he cared about, and yada yada yada. Basically, everybody's going to interpret it some different way. And, people are still probably going to buy the piece. They're going to attempt to buy the piece for, let's say, $1.5 million. However, if the artist comes out and states, yeah, none of what you're saying, none of what you people are interpreting my art pieces is real. None of it is real. I did not intend that at all. I knew that idiots like you would pay millions of dollars for a piece of art that I had no intention of putting any effort into, and I wanted to see how much money you idiots would pay for one drop of black paint on an empty canvas, and you just proved my point. They would still spin that in some way, like it's a commentary on the capitalist society, blah, blah, but he outright stated it. He outright stated his intention with his artwork, and yet he is being disregarded because people intend it in a different way. That's not to say that with certain artworks or certain mediums, people are not allowed to have their own opinions or interpretations of said media. Not saying that at all. You are most certainly allowed to do that. However, that perception of what you believe to be true should not trump what is factually true. If the artist says it is just there to make money from stupid people willing to buy a blank canvas with a black dot on it, that is what it is factually. You can interpret it however you want, but that does not change the facts. Much like how, if the creator of a game like Fabula Ultima, such as Emma, states how they created atlases, and I am in my computer making an atlas that doesn't exactly follow the exact same steps, Emma should have given me that advice to heed when making my own atlas. It doesn't mean that I have to follow it, but it is advice that I should have in the back of my mind. But to state that Emma, the creator of the game, has no control over what people do with their game or what they say about the game, which is true. You could say whatever you want. You can not like it. You can like it, whatever. But to say that Emma, when assessing content for the game in their own server, is not the authority and should not be listened to, I think is factually incorrect. If the designer, if the artist, if the producer, if anybody who worked on a project tells you the real intention or the real reason or the realistic facts of what their idea or what their intention was when making said media, it should not be disregarded just because they put it out in the public. That is, I am of the opinion that is a very, very dumb very dumb take.